Good morning, everybody. I'm kind of discombobulated. I'm trying to get a guest added in. Um, she should be coming on soon. It's my good friend Lynne Ryan from Pennsylvania and very heavily involved in politics in Pennsylvania. All right, before you can add them, let me give her a call real quick while we're on the phone. I mean, yeah, says that her devices are not connected. Yeah, so it says that you'll need to connect your mic or cam before you can add them to the stream. Is your little mic and camera like blocked out? No, I get it. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully that will work. We will get Lynne on here one way or another, folks. Or do it on your phone. Just click yeah. I mean, if you click that link on your phone, you can have your camera on your phone. Okay. Okay, bye. All right, she's going to try and connect in with another way. But anyway, Lynne is very connected with the Republican Party in Pennsylvania, and I just thought it would be fun to have her on and get the insight and have her tell you what's happening politically in Pennsylvania, because that was such a big state in the 2020 elections. And I'm pretty sure that Lynne is a state delegate to go to the RNC this month in Milwaukee. So, but we met, Lynne and I met. I'm going to wait till she gets on here. She's getting her phone and she'll get connected on here in a minute. But I'm hoping that she can clear it up, because I was laying in bed last night thinking, when did we meet? We met at the border down in Texas. It was a Moms for America situation and an event. And Karen Vaughn, who's a Gold Star mom, had called me and said, you need to get down here. You need to be a part of it. I mean, it was already the night before it was all starting. And I made an immediate plane reservation and was able to get on a plane and get down there to the border. I'm going to add Lynne on right now. I was just telling them how you and I met and down at the border. How many years ago was that, Lynne?
I think it was maybe 2018, 2017. It was that, it was the weekend before the governor's election in 2018 in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was before the Trump, the 2020 election, because we were all so excited about that. But, so that's how Lynne and I met. And I was just so drawn to her because she's a plethora of information. I was just telling them how involved you are in the state of Pennsylvania. Are you a state delegate going to the RNC from?
Yes, I'm a state delegate, and I'm also I was elected by our delegation on the Rules Committee. There's a male and a female from each state and territory, so I'll be on the Rules Committee as well.
Nice, and you're the right person to do that job. I'm sure, because you know so much about the ins and outs of what goes on at these sort of things. So. Tell them a little bit about yourself, Lynne, how you got started in politics and how you're so heavily involved there in Pennsylvania.
Well, luckily I got involved because we had some thievery at the local school level, where the football coach was stealing the money from the kids. So that's really what was my catalyst. But then I really got involved in 2016 with the Trump 2015, trying to take back our country, because as I was a flight attendant for 36 years, flying international for most of those, and I saw our immigration laws were so exploited and extorted, and people have, it's just so many levels of corruption. And so I really became involved on a national level because of that. And
And
now
Lynne,
I'm at the state level. I'm very active. I'm a county chair. I'm the caucus chair of the Northwest Caucus, which is a sixth of the state counties. And then, I ran as a delegate, got elected, and then I'm on the rules committee. So I'm very active in the statewide GOP.
right. And Lynne, and I've talked about this before on my podcast, Lynne was a flight attendant she worked for United Airlines at the time, but she was with me,
Delta.
Delta, I'm sorry. She was with me down in El Paso when we went to the airport
Yep.
and saw this special line, and she went over and talked to the TSA agents. And that's when I got that letter sent to Representative Andy Biggs from Arizona, telling him what was going on there in El Paso. And they sent a letter to TSA with a bunch of congressmen signatures on it. And that kind of like blew the lid open of what was going on down there. And then I started noticing it when I was flying into McAllen and different areas in southern Texas. But so because you saw all of this immigration stuff, illegal immigration stuff, and wasn't it the pregnant women flying in here from other countries that you were witnessing?
Yes. The birthing tourism. There are so many levels of corruption with this. And so there's birthing tourism, especially from China and from the Middle East, but it's very prevalent. So they come over here and they're pregnant. They're 7 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant. They stay in these birthing houses, and they're in LA. They're very swanky neighborhoods. I mean, they're multi-million-dollar homes, and they'll have 80 to 90 births in that home every month. But these people exit, and the baby has a U.S. passport, which is then anchors them into our country. So with the Muslim countries, they have many wives. The men have many wives, where my husband is only allowed to be married to one woman in the United States. But these kids, or these women, come over here and they have a baby, and then they get a passport, and that baby anchors not only the mother and the father, but all the stepmothers, the step aunts, uncles, grandparents, siblings. It's one baby could anchor 250 people easily. And those people normally go in line in front of people who have tried to go through the legal process of entering our country legally and attaining U.S. citizenship. So it's so prevalent, and people don't realize how common it is. But it's just, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating, and it's very hard to convince people in our Congress how absurd and exploited this law is.
Well, and
loophole.
You're one of my friends who has a completely different angle and story about illegal immigration. I've got 15 other friends who have other ways and loopholes that our immigration system is absolutely, used, decimated. It's ineffective for the real reasons of why we have immigration laws. It's become a joke, number one, but I'm glad that you brought that all up, because that's just a whole nother way that people don't talk about,
Right.
Beyond the overstayed student visas. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And it's not just the, 10 million that Mayorkas has let across our border, since Biden's been in office. It's a lot more than that when you factor in all these other different avenues of how they're able to accomplish it.
Well, and the visa overstays. So if you come to the United States and you travel here through the visa waiver program or through a country, even if you have a visa, you come over here and you you tell them that you're going to stay at the Holiday Inn in Cincinnati, give them an address, whatever. And 7 days later, when you're supposed to exit the country, if you haven't exited the country, who's checking on A, if you ever even checked into the Holiday Inn in Cincinnati, or B, if you ever left the country? I mean, they know if you didn't leave the country, but we have all of our border patrol agents and all of the organizations that should be checking these visa overstays. They're so busy changing diapers at the border, or trying to welcome everybody, the welcoming committee down at the border, that they can't. It's a manpower thing too. It's disgusting, but the visa overstays are so prevalent as well, and there's no one that's checking up on it, or if they are, it's a minute percentage of the visa overstays.
Right. And the other thing is, we live in a computerized world, right? I mean, you've got Mayorkas who's done a WhatsApp phone app for these asylum seekers to just go on their phones and apply for asylum, show up at a port of entry, show their phone, and they're like, oh, welcome to America. But you can't find a way to keep track of these people who are on visas. It's just like the voter rolls here in Phoenix. There's so many dead people on the voter rolls in Maricopa County. And, can't you be connected to the Office of Vital Statistics? And the minute somebody's death certificate hits, a computerized message goes over to Maricopa County Secretary of State, please remove this voter from the voter rolls. It's like we live in such a high-tech world, and AI and this, that, you can't do anything without something computerized being involved, yet we're so stupid.
Well, we're stupid by design. That is because they want it that way.
Right.
They could track this. The IRS, if you make $40,000 and you owe the IRS $800, they know how to find you, but they couldn't find Hunter Biden on $1.5 million that he owed.
I know. I just want to tell you, Cayenne was on for a split second. She said, hi, Lynn. Good to see you. I can't stay on. I got to go to an event. Take care. But I wanted to let you know that she said hi to you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
She's great.
So, she is. I'm sorry. My border collie does this sometimes when she wants to get my attention. Anyway, so when we were down on that trip down to Texas, when I first met Lynn, we went down to the border, and we were right outside of an elementary school. And tell them what happened when we were standing there outside that elementary school.
Oh gosh, yes, we were on a berm that was the border, and it was small elementary school. Kids were inside going to class, and illegals. There were two or three illegals that we caught, right, that were right there, next to the elementary school, within 20 yards of the schoolyard.
And the girl was pregnant.
Yeah.
The one girl, because there was three of them. Yeah. And so we called Border Patrol, and they ended up showing up.
Yeah, they were right there.
Yeah. But, and that was back in, like you said, 2017 or it was 2018, when Border Patrol was more reactive and, wasn't stuck babysitting, changing diapers, slapping sandwiches together and processing paperwork. They were more along the lines of Border Patrol agents, like the oath they took under President Trump. So we see, I mean, you and I saw firsthand how this has changed for our country.
Oh, it's so demoralizing, and just, it's a national security issue. It was a national security issue then, but it's morphed into something that I couldn't have even imagined what happened.
Right. And I just watched a video yesterday, Lynn, where it showed these 3 boats coming up on the beach there near San Diego. One was up by Long Beach. And these boats come tearing up onto the beach, and all these illegals pour out of them and go running into the neighborhoods. And the reporter was saying, and they were showing the inside of the boat, because then they just leave the boat there, and they all just leave. So the boat is abandoned. And they were showing inside the boat, and it was all these big gas cans, the plastic cans for gas. The boat was just filled with it. So I don't know what they had planned, but this reporter was saying these are the bad players that are coming into our country because everybody else knows you just get on your phone and you do the app through Mayorkas's office and you go to a port of entry and you're let in. So these are the people that they know they can't let in. These are probably the terrorist elements that
Right.
are storming our beaches and coming up into our country. So it's not a matter of if this is going to happen. It's a matter of when. And, we've got a big holiday weekend coming up. There's going to be large gatherings in a lot of places. And I'm quite frightened, honestly, to see what's going to happen this 4th of July.
It is. And they're one step ahead of us. Well, they're 10 steps ahead of us. They're playing chess and we're playing checkers. So
right.
they are so far advanced on this, and the known godaways. Well, the people that we need to really fear are the ones that have totally flown under the radar, and we have no idea where they are, what they're doing. And it's so easy now. You can order everything you need to survive from Amazon, from you don't need to be out in public. And these people have pretty much locked themselves up and are just totally infiltrating our country. And they're here. They're in Pennsylvania. They're everywhere. People think that it's just the border states. No, every town and state is a border town and state.
Do you have a lot of illegals? I mean, do you have a lot of them standing on the side of the road, like at Home Depots and stuff, looking for work like we do here?
No, okay. We don't have that, but they are here. We do have them here, but they're not out publicly promoting that they are here.
And it's funny because I was driving yesterday to take some signs somewhere, and I looked over behind a Circle K, like a convenience store, and there's about 7 of these illegals up against the wall in the shade, because it's really hot here. They had the hose turned on the back of the Circle K, and some of them were taking their clothes off and they were bathing, they weren't naked or anything, but they were showering each other, and they were all, behind this convenience store. And I thought, this is just sick what this administration has done, lured these people up here to think that they're going to have a better life up here. And some of them do. Look, some of them on the East Coast, put up in those hotels and given free meals. And they talk to the people out on the streets and they're like, oh yeah, we get room service, we get meals. Half the meals are thrown away. So, our tax dollars just basically gets thrown in a garbage bin on the streets of New York. But this is a life of hardship. When these illegals end up here in Phoenix in the summer, and they may not have a place to live, because it's not like New York where there's a ton of hotels here. There are some hotels that have been switched over to migrant shelters and whatnot, but not anything like New York. And of course, if you go to downtown Phoenix, you don't see all the mopeds, you don't see all the crime, you don't see all the migrants hanging outside of hotels. So people are insulated because they aren't seeing it like they're seeing on the news from New York. So they're like, well, it doesn't affect us. Who cares? This isn't that big of a deal. They're just all back in New York. But then you've got the migrants who are lured up here, who are stuck out under the streets because there's not enough room in Phoenix. And so where do they go? They go to the big cities like New York or Chicago or Philadelphia to get to the resources that they know are available to them.
Right. Well, these liberal cities have just overdone themselves. They've totally.
Right. Yeah. And then you've got Mayorkas saying he was here and down at in Tucson at a very controlled press conference. And then he went down to Mexico. He was meeting with Panama and not Venezuela, Panama and Colombia officials, because I guess Panama is going to close down the Darien Gap and not let people continue coming up through the Darien Gap. We'll see if that happens, right? But he's down there doing his dirty deeds. And of course, we're never told the truth. But he actually said that he has the authority to raise the limits on the amount of immigrants who they allow into the country. Who the hell is Mayorkas, Lynn? He's not an elected official. He's the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, a Cuban national, I might add. How smart were we putting a Cuban national in charge of Department of Homeland Security? But he has no authority to change the numbers that Congress has put into place as to how many immigrants will allow into our country every year.
Well, and it's just another example of how the Biden administration has usurped every law and every tool in the toolbox for the checks and balances that we have. The Supreme Court has said that Biden uh, could not uh, give free student or get rid of the student loans debt and everything, and yet he went ahead and he did it because he got away with it. And yet they want to hold Trump's feet to the fire for the most absurd reasons, but yet they obstruct every single rule and regulation that is put in place or law that has been voted on by our lawmakers, not by unelected bureaucrats. And it's just morphed into a nightmare for us because they are not obeying the rules and the regulations and the laws that they swore under oath to uphold. It's
right.
Disgusting.
And, even Steve Bannon going into prison yesterday, I think, whatever happened to Eric Holder, not, adhering to his contempt of Congress by not, what do they call it? Where they were summoned to Congress to
subpoena.
Yeah, he didn't, honor the subpoena that Congress had sent Eric Holder. But of course, he's a Democrat and he's a liberal, and of course, he was a Clinton under the Clinton umbrella, so they're gonna protect him. But so many other Democratic officials who have ignored subpoenas from Congress, nothing ever happens to them. But these Democrats are hell-bent on making an example of conservatives. And January 6th is one of the biggest examples that the Democrats could put out there, because it put the fear of, God in a lot of people to where, gosh, I mean, we can't stand up. This is America. And our freedom of speech and our freedoms that we have is a reason why so many people in the world want to come here. But when they start suppressing all of that, and this is what the Democrats are really good at, they pull it off and then they blame it on the Republicans. And the sheep that follow them and do nothing but, sit there with CNN droning in the background all day long, they're brainwashed because they actually believe these morons. And what happened at the Supreme Court yesterday with Trump and the presidential immunity, and how they have just absolutely turned themselves inside out. I mean, calling for the, SEAL Team 6 to go in and assassinate Trump and all the things that they're doing, none of them would be held accountable for any of this. But if one conservative had said anything like that about Biden, my God, Lynn, it would be a completely different narrative and story going on in the news today.
Oh, they would have the guillotine out ready to, it's so insane. And no one is talking about Biden's all of the documents that he has, that when he wasn't even he wasn't even the president. What happened to all the documents? Some of them were at UPenn down in Philadelphia, and he did not have the authority to remove those or to declassify documents and national security papers. And yet we're going after Trump, and we've gone after Donald Trump for this. Everyone's head is on fire about Stormy Daniels and paying her and everything else. Nobody said a word about Bill Clinton and the $800,000 that he paid Paula Jones, or the millions of dollars that our congressional tax dollars that our congressional members use to pay off sexual innuendo or misconduct in the Congress. That's not even being talked about. But yeah, we're going after Donald Trump over Stormy Daniels, and did he pay for it? Did he not? Did he use the right funds? Did he claim it in the right category? On all these documents that he didn't even fill out.
Well, and that all happened before he was even president, before he was even running.
Correct.
And what about the mislabeling of the Russian hoax money, the dossier money that the Hillary Clinton campaign put up? That wasn't put into her records as fake dossier money. It was labeled under something else, was it not? I mean, come on. If somebody in this country can't realize the double standards, then they shouldn't even be voting because they don't even understand simple logic. Is my feelings about people, because this is it, man. 2024, this election is it.
That's right. People have to get out and vote. I mean, too big to steal or too big to rig is absolutely stop the steal, too big to rig, and, swamp the vote. Get out there and vote. Because if we don't go out in record numbers, and I'm telling people in Pennsylvania, you have to vote early so that someone doesn't steal your mail-in ballot.
Right.
Because if you can go to the courthouse, and in any one of the 67 counties, you can go to the courthouse, get your mail-in ballot, and fill it out all in the same visit and turn it back in.
Yeah.
You get your ballot in your hand and you turn it back in. You never have to use the United States Postal Service, which is very unreliable at this stage in the game. And that, if nothing, they're part of the problem.
Oh, big time.
But in Pennsylvania, if you go the first week that these mail-in ballots come out, go get yours. They can't steal your ballot,
right.
Which is what they're doing it. We know they're doing it. It's proving it. That is, an act of Congress to have your case heard.
I'm a part of several Republican chat groups, and last night in one of them, they were saying that over 100,000 voters, registered voters, were mysteriously taken off the Pima County voter rolls last week here in Arizona. So Stephen Richter's up to something. Stephen Richter, you've got the former Governor Ducey and former Governor Jan Brewer here in Arizona have endorsed this guy. He's the guy who was involved here in Maricopa of all the crazy stuff that Kerry Lake was suing him, and it was going back and forth between the two of them. So former Governor Doug Ducey and Jan Brewer both step up and endorse this idiot, this moron. And you've got great candidates who are running against him on the Republican side, more trustworthy and loyal candidates who are running. But they had a debate with the candidates, and afterwards a reporter caught him, Lynn, and they asked him, did you vote for Trump in 2020? And he said yes. And they said, will you be voting? I'm sorry. Then they asked him, will you be voting for Trump in 2024? This is a Republican county recorder, and he says, no, I'll be voting for Biden. He says this on the news, on camera. And you've got former governors here in Arizona who've endorsed him. My point being, politics in the Republican Party in Arizona have become so corrupt. You don't know who you can trust, who is a true conservative, who's a moderate, who's a rhino, who's a plant. You just don't know anymore. And my question to you is, do things like that go on in Pennsylvania?
I think they go on everywhere. But I do, in Pennsylvania, we are really making a concerted effort in this election. And I mean, do we not have rhinos? Absolutely, we do. They exist everywhere. But they are being pretty much quashed by the vast majority of us, because there are so many people now, and the campaign, all of our statewide candidates, everyone's on the same page. The Trump campaign, the RNC, the state GOP, everyone has pretty much signed up to the same playbook, and we're all playing ball together and rowing in the same direction, because we know we're not going to win these elections if we don't have good teamwork. Pennsylvania is the road to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and if we don't win Pennsylvania, we're not going to win the White House, probably, and more than likely. But and Biden knows that too. The Democrats know that too. But we are organized. They are throwing money in this state, staffers. It is an organization unlike anything I've ever seen. And I've been deeply involved since 2012. But I think that the rhinos are going to be drowned out, because the vast majority of people are fed up with being fed up. And they're going to find themselves looking for a new job. But they do
So,
exist. They do exist. They're everywhere. But they're definitely the minority this year.
so it's a lot different than in 2020, because I know you had a lot of grief going on there in Pennsylvania within the Republican Party um, committees and stuff. You had a lot of problems going on in 2020 in Pennsylvania, didn't you?
Well, you know what, and there's still, you still have those people that are trying to upset the apple cart, and that's the unfortunate part about the Republican Party that the Democrats don't deal with. They all get in lockstep. They sing the same tune. They don't care who their candidate is. They get behind them. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we elected John Fetterman last year, but to the Senate. So, or to, we have to. We know that if we don't, hang on, we know that if we don't win this election, our country's done. And so most of the people, vast majority, are all on board. Now, are we going to have a few bellyachers and troublemakers? Yes, we probably will. But it's not going to be the numbers, because everyone has signed on and has agreed that this is a do or die election, and our country is, the stake of our country is in direct correlation with what we do in Pennsylvania. And we have the resources, we're organized. They've given us ground troops, and they're adding every day more staff. So I just think you're going to see something totally different come out of Pennsylvania than you did in 2020, because we got caught with our pants down in 2020 with the mail-in ballots.
Yeah,
Donald Trump didn't like them. I didn't like them. Nobody likes them. But you know what? Until we get rid of them, those are the rules we have to play by. So we need to all be active participants and go out and use the mail-in ballot to the best of our ability to offset the steal.
right. And see, here in Arizona, the big push was don't go in on voting day and vote in person on November 3rd. That was in 2020. And it was a big deal. It was even in 2022 that was going on here. But so now, because we've got a veto queen for a Governor Katie Hobbs here in Arizona, we can't get any election integrity bills and legislation passed through, down there at the Capitol. She vetoes everything. So we're stuck. We're stuck with mail-in ballots. We're stuck with the early voting season. It's not even, a month. It goes on and on and on forever and ever and ever, which allows the Democrat more and more time to cheat and ballot harvest. So you've got some of the Republicans here all up in arms because Turning Point is doing a Chase the Vote, where they're engaging with voters and really encouraging these disengaged and inactive voters to get out and vote this year. And some of the Republicans here in Arizona are just all up in arms. Why are they doing that? We need one day, one vote, paper ballots, get rid of the machines. Yeah, I agree. Everybody agrees with that. Precinct voting, back to that here in Arizona. But the problem is those laws aren't in effect yet, and we've got to do something to come together as a Republican Party to get everybody out to vote in this election. And standing by and bitching about the fact that we don't have same day voting and paper ballots and stuff going on right now does nothing. And, you got to hand it to Turning Point and Charlie Kirk for coming up with this and working so closely with the Trump campaign to get these disengaged and inactive Republican voters out.
Absolutely. And that's what we're doing in Pennsylvania. We're going after the low propensity voters. We're not trying to cannibalize the day of election voters, which do go out. But, I'm telling people that are regular voters to vote early so you can help drive people to the polls, drive people to the courthouse to go vote in person.
Yep.
Help us get out the vote. And, it is amazing how many people still are not registered to vote. It is just unbelievable to me, or they're registered and they never vote. But I will say we did a lot of research last year. So we did a mail-in ballot initiative in my county trying to get the low propensity voters to vote in last year's election, which judicial races, and you and I have talked about this and you've heard me go off on this, but a lot of people don't do their due diligence, or they don't go vote in a judicial race. And these are the people who impact our laws the most. These are our Supreme Court, like the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which is now two Republicans to 5 Democrats. So we've lost that battle right now. But all of your courts in your state and in your local elections, these impact your daily lives. And we have an election 2 times a year, every year, not once every 4 years for the president. And so we need to educate our voters to get out and vote in all of these elections, because they all have an impact. And, people start out as the dog catcher, and then they run for county commissioner or township supervisor. Then they're the county commissioner. Then they're your state rep. And before you know it, they're in Congress. And they have lived off the taxpayer their whole lives. They've never run a business. They've never worked in the real world. And then we wonder why we get these ridiculous laws that Congress puts up, because these people have lived off the taxpayer and don't know the real world and don't know reality. But that being said, these mail-in ballots, we have to participate until we have the majority and we can get rid of all these absurd laws that have been put into place legally or illegally. Because Act 77 in the state of Pennsylvania, we can't get the courts to hear the case. It's not that we've lost the case, we can't get them to hear the case. And Judge Alito from the Supreme Court, who is, over our district, said that it's a state's issue and that the state needs to decide. And the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania won't hear the case, but yet it's a totally illegal law. And until
And explain to people what that law is.
So it's Act 77, no excuse mail-in ballots. So we used to have absentee ballots, which we still have absentee ballots, but you don't need an excuse to be able to get a mail-in ballot. And it's just, but what they did is you have to advertise this, and then it has to be voted on in 2 separate sessions. And but they pushed it through in October of 2019. And then, of course, we got shut down with COVID, and then they decided to have drop boxes. So not only could you vote early, but you could drop it off at drop boxes. And in Philadelphia, within 1 mile, they had like 20 drop box locations in downtown Center City of Philadelphia. And then we wonder why they stuffed the boxes, how they were able to stuff the boxes. Our state laws, you have to give a Democrat and a Republican the ability to view the polling place, your polling stations or your precincts. And so by law, they were supposed to give you the ability to witness these drop boxes. But yet they had so many of them out there, and they didn't have video cameras on all of them, but there were some, and they witnessed people turning in more than one ballot, which is illegal. But nothing was ever done. Nothing was ever done because you can't get the judges to hear the case. Right. It's so frustrating, but we have to learn how to play the game just like the Democrats did. And right now, I think we've got the Democrats on the run in Pennsylvania, because we've tuned up our game and we've figured out how to fight this. And we're going to do it legally, but it's going to be an all hands on deck, and people need to vote and vote early and help other people get to the polls, or vote by mail, or I say vote in person and go to the courthouse and do it.
Right. Well, and I've been telling people, because I've been door knocking, and I've been telling people, because they're like, yeah, we're going to mail our ballot in. And I'm like, don't mail it in. Go to a voting center and drop it off. I mean, fill it out at home if you want, but go to a voting center and drop it off. Do not put it in a drop box, and do not put it in the U.S. Postal Service. There's been a lot of problems with the United States Postal Service and that big new program that they put into place. There have been some huge problems with lost packages, lost mail. Yep. And of course, these carriers don't want to deal with the ballots. And so they'll just throw them in trash bins. They don't care. And voting is such a sacred right here in this country. And I find it pretty interesting, door knocking, how cavalier people are about it. Like, yeah, probably. Or, I'm just so sick of politics. Well, this is going to affect your life.
Right.
Like from here on out, this is going to affect your life. And you know what? If you don't go vote, I don't want to hear one word from you complaining about what's going on in our country. Those are the last people who have the right to complain, are the people who sit home and don't take the time to vote and make their voices heard. We've got situation here in Arizona though, where you got the McCainites and Doug Ducey and Jan Brewer and all these people who used to be involved in politics, who can't seem to step out of the way. But when they had the meeting and they voted and they elected the delegates to go to the RNC from here in Arizona, there was 6 people who were challenging, who had been up to be elected but didn't get elected, and they were challenging the grassroots movement that happened here in Arizona, challenging those candidates, and it got to be a big deal. And those people who were wanting to challenge got a hold of the Trump campaign, told them that we had these terrible people who were put into place that were going to vote against Trump at the convention. And I know several of these people, the grassroots people personally, and there's no way they would ever do that. So watching this unfold, if I didn't know as much as I know and hadn't gotten involved in politics here locally, I wouldn't have the knowledge and be able to tell people who are, do you believe what those fake electors are trying to do? No. That's not the case. The people who are challenging them are the people that you need to be worried about. And this will go on into perpetuity. How do you say that? It'll go on and on and on and on, because people are so enthralled with the thought of power in politics and being able to make decisions and having that sense of power, that I don't think this will ever go away. But I'm so happy to hear that the Republican Party there in Pennsylvania is coming together. I just wish I had that same kind of feel-good feeling about the Republican Party here in Arizona.
Well, we still have the issues, but the gaslighting is just going to continue. They want to make the case of what they're actually doing against all of those of us that are doing the right thing, or in our perspective are, and they're challenging us with all this gaslighting, which is what they themselves are guilty of doing. And you can look at the Biden administration and the Biden campaign, and that's exactly what they're doing to Donald Trump and to the Trump campaign. They're blaming all of this stuff, and the Russia hoax, that was Hillary. But you go all the way back. They blamed him for all the stuff that they, in fact, were guilty of doing. But we have it in Pennsylvania, but we don't have it. Our delegation is tight. We are going to go to this convention even though we're unbound delegates. 51 of us are unbound, 13 are bound. And we're one of the few states that has that. So on the first round of voting, we could vote for whoever we want. But you know what? We are all, the people spoke, the voters spoke, and we're going to respect their vote. And, we have a tight delegation, and if there are a few that want to make noise, they're going to be drowned out by the rest of us, because we definitely are the majority, and they're not going to. We have to be united. The Republicans, whether you're from Arizona, Florida, wherever, we need to unite. Donald Trump is our candidate. This RNC convention should be a celebration of his campaign and his nomination to be the president of the United States. Right. And let the fighting go on in Chicago in August. Let the Democrats fight it out.
So your presidential preference election, you have that there in Pennsylvania, right?
No, we don't have that. The Democrats do. We don't. No.
Oh, okay. All right. Because we have it here in Arizona. So that's why our delegates are bound, because I think that's when you would have a complete, all of the delegates would be bound, is if you have a presidential preference election. No. Because obviously Trump won here in Arizona. So, I think the DNC is going to be a SHIT show, man. What in your opinion do you think is going to happen? Are they going to replace Biden?
I don't think they can. Legally, their delegates are bound to Biden.
Uh-huh.
And if he's gone this far, I don't think he's stepping down.
Right.
Uh,
Well, Joe Biden's behind it. I mean, I've been reading so many things about her, and that has been her goal for life. And she wouldn't have been on the cover of Vogue had it not been for what she's doing right now, right? She never would
exactly.
have gotten that sort of thing. But the ripples that they're causing, I'm sure, is setting the one world order elite, such as the Obamas and the Clintons and different people, setting them on their heels because they don't even know what to do with them at this point. And there's some states that already have the name printed on the ballot, and so there's no way that they could get rid of it and not have him on the ballot at this point.
Well, in the state of Pennsylvania, I'm pretty sure he had to remove himself from the ballot 7 days after our election was certified. You just can't change who the candidates are on the ballot. It's not so easy in most
Right.
states. And not for anything, you disenfranchised all of those voters that went to the polls and voted for him.
Right. That was the biggest thing, the big takeaway that I took. But in all honesty, we the people don't matter to the Democrats. Come on.
No. And they're making it more and more obvious every day. But you know what's really sad? And I say this, I don't know if I said this to you last night, but we need to pray for our country because the entire world watched that debate.
Yes.
And they saw how inept he is and how frail and his inability to basically function mentally. Um, and it's sad. It's really sad, but our country is at stake. So it's not a joke. It's not funny, but we need to pray for our country because some of our adversaries around the world are just chomping at the bit to invade because they know he's weak and you've got 5 months to strike.
Chomping at the bit to invade. They've already invaded our country.
Well, but I'm just saying all these other, the South China Seas. Nobody wants to talk about what goes on in the South China Seas. That's been going on. Obama sat idly by while they built up that island. Oh, it's just going to be an island. Then they put a military landing strip in there. Oh, well, it's no big deal. Then they put a military installation in there. A third of the world commerce goes through those waterways. And we just allowed that to take place. They basically built an island in the South China Seas, and now it's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Right. Made it into a military strip landing place. Yeah, military installment. And I find it pretty odd that, all they kept saying before Trump was elected in 2020 was that, this is the guy who's going to be in charge of the nuclear codes and he's going to start World War III. And, we went through 4 peaceful years under Trump. In fact, world leaders were pretty, set back. Whoa, you don't want to piss this guy off. And then you have, bumbling Joe Biden come into office. And what if there's a middle of the night Benghazi going on and there's a call to the White House? Who's going to be able to wake Joe up? Who's second string? Is Jill running the show just like Harry Truman's wife did when he was incapacitated and she ended up being the president for a year and a half because she wouldn't let wouldn't allow him to step down. And you got to wonder, is power that big of a drug to some people that they will do anything, including the demise of a whole country because of their yearning for power?
No, I don't put anything past them. And I think that there's more at play than that. It's money and power and they're evil. I mean, this is a fight against evil right now. These people are evil. They don't love this country. They don't love our Constitution. They want our Constitution desecrated, and they're working at it every single day. It's so sad to see. If you would have told me 3 years ago we would be in this predicament so quickly, I would have said never. It couldn't happen that fast. And yet it just has. They have degraded this country, the likes of which I couldn't have even imagined.
I know.
But
but and when Trump gets into office, because I'm pretty confident this is going to happen for us in November, that he's going to be elected. You know, I just wonder how much he's going to restrain himself from the optics. But there's so many of these people that need to be brought before, brought to trial and answer for their like Mayorkas, acts of treason and not taking his oath seriously, the acts of treason against the United States for allowing an invasion the way that he did. You know, but I feel like it's going to be, oh, we can't do that for the optics because they were screaming and yelling, this is what I was going to do, so I'm not going to do it. What's going to happen in 4 years from now?
Well, but I think that part of the Supreme Court ruling yesterday with the limited immunity, I think that kind of sets the stage for some of that. Because if you're in power and you're doing treasonous acts where you are aiding and abetting our adversaries, which is treason, to some extent and definition, I think that they're going to be held accountable. I really do. I think that the reason why it's limited immunity is partially for that reason. You should have limited immunity. You should be able to do your job and not have to worry, but you also have to do it legally and
constitutionally.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
And this whole thing with giving student loan debt, I mean, that's just one thing. The open borders is another. The the fuel, we are arming our adversaries with money and power by not being the energy independent country that Trump left them.
Yeah.
And that is just giving them all the tools in the toolbox to come after us and the money to do it with.
I know, it's pretty sick.
It's beyond, it's so humiliating and demoralizing. But you know what? I do feel confident that they've overstepped their boundaries and people are waking up. And like I said, people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We just have to get some of those people to vote that normally don't vote. Right. And they have to vote for the right people.
So the RNC is coming up when?
It starts Monday, the 16th. What is it? The 12th? Let's see. 14th through the 18th.
Yeah, the 15th is a Monday.
Yeah, the 15th. Okay, 15th through the 18th. So He takes the nomination on the 18th. And the vice president, if he has a pick by then, will have, accepts the nomination on Wednesday night. He's Thursday night. The rules and the platform get voted on Monday. And
you're going to be heading out Sunday?
I go. We start our meetings on Wednesday, the 10th, for Gotcha. The rules committee. So we set the rules for the convention. And the platform committee goes out this Sunday. They set their first meeting is Sunday evening. So they set the platform for the Republican Party, which will pretty much mirror the platform of 2016 or the Trump agenda. You're going to see pro-life with exceptions, and you're going to see closed borders, build the wall, national security, law and order, Constitution, obeying the Constitution.
So you're going to be there a whole week before the convention starts?
Pretty much, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So I was lucky to have caught you to be on the podcast this week.
No, yeah, I'll be around till
yes.
Right. Celebrating July 4th, of course, but
yes.
I'll be around. But yeah.
Well, we're coming up on the time because I actually go 55 minutes on my platform. So I want to thank you so much, Lynne, for joining me.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And thanks for all that you do.
Yes.
We've got our country's in peril. We've got to save it.
That's right. Good luck at the convention. And I want to catch up with you afterwards for sure to see everything that went down.
Okay.
Safe travels. Love you.
All right. Love you too. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I'm so glad Lynne was able to join us. I love her to death, and I wish her the best of luck at the Republican convention. Obviously, Bella knows that I'm getting ready to sign off. So I hope you all have a great day. See you tomorrow. I have Angel Mom Wendy Cochran joining me, and you will definitely want to join me so that you can hear her story about her son Pierce. Have a nice evening.